So this Saturday we have the much anticipated showdown between Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter, of course for Crawford's WBO welterweight title. And now there's a lot of intrigue surrounding this fight because Terence Crawford hasn't had his chance to really test himself against the elite guys at welterweight. And this is despite the fact he is widely recognised as probably a top 3 pound for pound guy in boxing. Pound for pound, yes, it's very abstract, depends on what criteria you're using, but he's seen as one of the top 3 guys in the entire sport. And Shawn Porter is someone who at welterweight has pretty much fought everyone. I can't think off the top of my head a top level guy, an elite guy now that, other than Crawford of course, that Shawn Porter hasn't fought yet. And so this fight will serve as a good gauge of how good is Terence Crawford really at this weight, because we've seen him clean out 140 and he's moved up and he's fought some good guys. He's fought contenders and he's fought Jeff Horn, of course, to win the title, but he hasn't had that defining fight at welterweight to say, okay, this is Terence Crawford's place in this division. Despite that though, I think, in my opinion, feel free to disagree, but in my opinion, Terence Crawford is the best at welterweight, but he still has to prove it. And so that's why this is such a good fight, because we're going to find out, can he do it? How good can he look against Shawn Porter, a former 2-time champion, because he held the IBF and the WBC. How good can Terence Crawford be against this guy who's always put up such good efforts against, the elite guys, like Spence, Ugas, Garcia, Thurman, Kell Brook. Of course, Kell Brook was beaten pretty swiftly and brutally by Terence Crawford, but that's where the intrigue stems from. And so what do we have with both fighters? Well, we have Terence Crawford, a top 3 pound for pound guy who has such an accomplished skill set. He has an amazing boxing IQ, just able to make adjustments like pretty much no other fighter. Very few people truly understand boxing the way Terence Crawford does. And if you want to have a visual representation of his understanding of boxing, look at his run through his career, through 140 pounds to now. You can see that he fights in almost a different style. He employs different tactics in almost every single one of those fights, and he gets the job done. He's fought a whole wide range of styles: tall guys, short guys, southpaws, orthodoxies, inside fighters, outside fighters, pressure fighters, boxers, counter punchers, and he's beaten them all. And so that just shows how accomplished this man, his IQ and his skills really are. On top of that, Terence Crawford isn't just some fancy Dan. He has a lot of dog, and you can see that by how many stoppages he's had in his career. And they're not just, he's not just someone who's going to dance around and all happens to land a hard shot, because he's not a massive one-punch knockout artist, but he has a meanness to his work. He's completely slick and he's got skills, but he really tries to put hands on his opponents and inflict a lot of damage. And then if we look over at Shawn Porter, we have someone who has, managed to always give a good account of himself in his highest level fights. And he's like the Tasmanian devil of boxing. He's this short guy for the weight, and he's, just a bundle of energy and strength and power. Even though he doesn't necessarily punch as hard as, some people make out, I think. I remember the days when Shawn Porter had just beaten Paulie Malignaggi, and he was kind of being marketed as like the welterweight Mike Tyson. Yeah, bit of a stretch, that one, but he is a handful. Brings a lot of energy, a lot of physicality, and he's a very good athlete, very explosive, especially in his movement around the ring. He can close the distance with quite a lot of speed and really put the pressure on you. I think if you look at the Errol Spence fight, Errol Spence is a big guy at welterweight, but Shawn Porter had Errol Spence reeling at a pretty decent pace, and it just goes to show how physically imposing he can be. You know, like there's some training footage of Shawn Porter, and he's hitting the bag, and his back is facing the camera, and just look at the size of it. This man is an absolute unit. He's built like a tank, but he's an explosive athlete, and he can just really, really make it a tough night if you're not on your A game. But despite that, Shawn Porter is clumsy. And even though he has this athleticism and he's a very well-conditioned athlete and physical and make it rough and rugged for you, he doesn't have the skill set, I believe, to really. I don't think he can challenge Terence Crawford in the skills department. But don't get me wrong, I feel like this will be a rough fight for Terence Crawford, just based sheerly on the physicality and the presence of Shawn Porter. But when it comes to skills, I believe the gap is a lot bigger than people realise. And if you combine that with the clumsiness of Shawn Porter, I think he's going to give Terence Crawford a lot of opportunities to basically attack and land some very clean and damaging offense, especially as Shawn Porter is going forward and trying to advance, because we can see sometimes I don't think he truly understands how to feint. A lot of the time he'll kind of do like this stutter step, and he'll like stutter forward and then attack. With someone like Terence Crawford, someone who does understand feinting and how to set up shots effectively, I can't see it working. I'd be very surprised if it did. So I don't think that the skill set of Shawn Porter is good enough, to be honest. And I think combine that with his clumsiness, I'm going to go out on a limb, guys. Feel free to disagree with me. This is just my prediction, my interpretation of this fight. But I feel like Terence Crawford not only beats Shawn Porter, but I think he stops him. And now a lot of people are going to say, oh, but you know, Shawn Porter, yeah, he's been down a couple of times, but he's always gotten up to win. And look, it's not going to be easy. I don't see Terence Crawford blowing Shawn Porter away. But I just think the skills, the technique, the IQ, and the meanness of Terence Crawford. Because remember, he's been trying for a long time to fight the best guys at welterweight. And he hasn't really had the chance. Whereas now, he has a chance to make a statement. So I think if he hurts Shawn Porter, which I think is a very realistic possibility, I think he's going to go for it. And Shawn Porter is tough. He's very tough. So I can see this fight where potentially Shawn Porter gets stopped on his feet by the referee. And I believe that happens after Terence Crawford probably takes a couple of hard shots and is buzzed himself. So I do think this will be a very good fight. A back and forth while it lasts. Probably the skills of Terence Crawford, but then the physicality of Shawn Porter. But I think Shawn Porter will probably be able to hurt Terence Crawford with that kind of looping overhand right he throws. Probably at like a mid-range. I do believe that Terence Crawford, he can get caught. We've seen that against Kavaliauskas. He landed like a short right hand, bit of a right hook / overhand right. And I believe that'll be a similar shot that he gets hurt by from Shawn Porter. But then I can see Terence Crawford being able to time Shawn Porter as he comes in and tries to close his distance, because he's very clumsy there. Leaves a lot to be desired. And probably knock Porter down, and then he'll try and really push the issue and get Porter out there. I think hitting Shawn Porter consistently, forcing the referee to stop the fight. Porter probably against the ropes, getting stopped on his feet. Not the most technical breakdown, I know, but I feel like there are so many aspects to both guys that you'd probably need a study or something. So this is just an overview of how I see the fight going. I'm going to go for Terence Crawford stopping Shawn Porter. I want to say around round 9, maybe 10. So round 9 or 10, Porter being stopped on his feet by the referee. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you agree, disagree? Do you think I'm absolutely mad for thinking that Crawford's going to stop Porter? Hey, it's just my opinion. It's just my interpretation of the fight. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. You could like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next video.